Welcome to Big Blend Radio, where we celebrate variety and how it adds spice to quality of life. So everyone, as you know, it is our 18th year celebration of Big Blend Radio here on Big Blend Radio and Big Blend Magazines. Our Big Blend Magazine company in this country is 28 years old. Our digital magazines are celebrating 11 years old this year. And our tour started in our Love Your Parks tour, traveling across the country, majority of the time full-time, has been going since 2012. We went full-time on the road in 2013 with a couple years in between of being home and redoing websites and things. But I think it's been a solid 10 years that Nancy know how to be good gypsies in America and other countries. Yeah. So Chef Ivan Flowers is here as part of our anniversary celebration. And it actually really started with his wife, Tracy, that he came on the show. And Tracy was working up in the Sedona area. She's an amazing publicist. And we were doing different segments on shows 18 years ago. And then one day she says, well, you know what? I met this chef and I think he should be on your show. And then she got married to him, right? Isn't that how it worked, Ivan? Right. It's not our show, yes, you up, but she did come and see you, right? Yes.
She said yes. And then that's how I met her. She was my PR and marketing person. Yeah.
Oh, so funny.
And you came on a show, and then next thing you know, she goes, well, we're moving to Southern California. I'm like, who are you moving with, Ivan? Like, whoa, shenanigans was going up in Sedona. But yeah, no, I mean, that's an amazing love story. So you guys have actually been together, not actually, but I mean, like when I look back, like actually over time, it's been a few years now, huh? When you think about.
Yes, 15. Yeah. And we've been with you a very long time.
Yeah. I think Tracy has been working with us on shows since the beginning. Like 17 or 18 years, and at least 17, I would say minimum. And I mean, at that point, we weren't quite even Big Blend Radio or Big Blend Magazines. We were still Southwest Blend, I think, at that time. And we were doing our Champagne Sunday show. Now you're on Eat, Drink, Be Merry all the time. But yeah, remember that, Nancy, at the beginning?
She saw your potential.
She did. Well, yours too. I mean, it's like, you remember Ivan would come on the show and always would talk about, and don't forget to have that fiber, right, Nancy? You remember that?
Yes.
On shows? And so, I mean, I don't think any show goes by. The most recent one was about cheese, and we still talked about squeaks, didn't we? Shows. But turning 18, I suddenly went, oh, we're 18. That feels young, right? When we're feeling a little like we've been around the block a few times, it feels good to talk about being 18. Where were you when you were 18?
I was at SUNY Oswego on the Canadian border on Lake Ontario in college.
Oh. So what were you studying? Cookery, or what was going on for college?
I started out, I wanted to be pre-med. And I took biology, chemistry, and calculus. And I don't know if you ever sat in a classroom and within 10 minutes, you look around and you start to sweat and you go, I have no idea what they're talking about. Yeah. So I changed to psychology.
So you went to psychology? Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, and I have to say that I tried to take calculus because one of the teacher advisors kept saying, no, you've got the brains, you can do this. And I'm like, okay. So you go in, and then like halfway through the hour, I'm like, what the heck are they talking?
Yes,
and there's a sine and there's a cosine. Yeah. And I'm like, what are you talking?
No way. When I was in high school, they started the trigonometry word, and I'm like, no. Algebra was bad, not trig.
The one with brains in this house is sitting to my left. She went to UCLA and she did science-based psychology, which is like going to medical school. I mean, everything from calc to statistics to chemistry to advanced.
That's why she can bake. Tracy can
That's
bake.
why she can bake.
Well, but don't you think those skills, I mean, psychology, right? And then taking that into the kitchen, because the kitchen is brutal as hell, right? And now you teach high school students, and everyone, Chef Ivan is a 5-star chef, has been around the block in cookery, literally across the country, even cooked on airplanes, right? And actually someone was just telling me, just did an interview with travel writer and author Linda Ballou, and she talked about her writing career and how writing literally saved her life. So she was yanked out of Southern California at a young age and moved to Haines, Alaska, which is like truly the last frontier, inside passage of Alaska. And then she was 13 or 14 years old, and she started dating a Native American man, an indigenous person, and her dad freaked out. And she comes home from school one day, and she's like barely turning 14. And he was packing her stuff up and saying, "You're getting on a plane and you're going to your grandma." And it was not quite a blood grandma, like a great aunt or something. You're flying there and you're getting out of here. You will not be dating this boy. And she was just like, what the heck? Yeah, it's brutal awakening to those kinds of times as well, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
this is her, it was already rough in Alaska, but the nature really was her solace. And that's been her writing career, is everything about nature. They put her on a seaplane where the guys actually on the seaplane, and she's young, helped her, taught her how to fly. And so she started looking at this as an adventure, going, well, wait a minute, this could be fun, Then they took her to, I think she flew out of Anchorage. Anyway, everyone, it's all up on bigblendradio.com. They put her on a plane as a kid. And she says, Lisa, this was back in the day. They gave you cigarettes on the plane and a full meal and wine or champagne or something. And I'm like, what do you mean they gave you cigarettes and wine and a full meal? You were 14. She goes, we could back in the day. And I'm like, what the hell? And I said, I know a chef who used to cook on a plane. Like, did that occur when you were on a plane, like cooking on planes? Were you on the plane or off the plane when you cooked the meals? Like,
no,
I've been dying to ask you about this.
I wasn't on the plane.
You were.
I was consulting when I was in the meat industry, in the food industry, and I was consulting, and I was doing different cuts, like for first class for Lufthansa, Northwest Orient, Japan Airlines, things like that for their first class service to their commissaries. What to buy, how to cut it, how to portion it.
Wow. Did you ever have to fly on the plane to see what was going on, or was it all on the ground?
No, it was all on the ground.
Wow. That's interesting. So,
but I was with Tower. I was with Tower for 3 or 4 years, which was an Israeli airline. And I flew charters with them for 3 years, and that's how I saw the world. You would go where the plane went, and they would leave you because they only started. I was on the oldest flying 747 in the world, the second one built. Ooh. So they would leave you and then drop you off, and I had 10 days in Paris, 8 days in Belgium, 17 days in Japan or Seoul, Korea, and then they bought more and more planes. But then I got out of it because it was rough, but it was a lot of fun, and that's how I was able to see this planet
and eat. And where did the food part come in from psychology, which I know I want to touch about that and being in the kitchen, because you have to have your psychological warfare on to deal with restaurants. You do.
Yes.
But and now being a teacher, you got to teach those kids psychological warfare. And, we were just watching a podcast presentation thing about entrepreneurs and psychological warfare to be in business. And we're like, we don't have to hear this stuff. We know you just have to keep bouncing back up. But, how did it go? Cause it seems like you're interested in science and chemistry and those kinds of things. So that relates to food. Psychology does relate to food because it makes people feel good or bad, depending on what's being served. So what was that cornerstone for you going into food?
I always was involved in it. My dad was a chef. He had the Rendezvous. So I was always involved in it. And when I got more and more involved, and when you're creating restaurants or you're creating menus or you're doing the wording, the way you word a menu can take somebody to, I need to try that, where you word it in such a way where it doesn't have too many words, but you go, I must try this. The way you train staff to explain food to people, the way you go to a table and make people feel at home and explain the food. You know, as hard as the kitchen is, the hardest part of restaurants is the front, is serving. That's, without a doubt, one of the hardest jobs probably in the world, where you go to every table and you have to make it. You know, when Tracy did it for years and we had Fornos, she was like renowned for going up to people, and she had regulars for years, and she just had this flow and making them feel important, remembering their name, and they came back. So it's very important, because a lot of times you go to restaurants and it's like the hostess doesn't even look at you. They don't say, you know, I mean, it's like, if you don't have that component, you have nothing. The food can be great. Yeah. The service has to be genuine.
And you know what, as women, there's so many times, this is kind of a little side hobby. When we go into a restaurant and you walk in the same time as other people, if there is a man with the family that walks in, and I'm still in two minds about this, is it because it's a family that they get served first?
Yeah.
Or is it a male female thing?
It's because get the kids seated before they destroy the restaurant.
Well, but there is a thing about the male-female thing with servers. There definitely is.
Same as bartenders. Bartenders are totally psychologists.
But then I read a study that said that men will leave a tip where a lot of females won't. So maybe that's the key.
That's not true. That's not true, man.
No, I didn't say all, but there was a study that said that that's how waiters and waitresses feel, that the females will not leave a tip or as big a tip as a male. I'm just saying what I read.
I know. What do you say, Ivan? You've been in this world on that.
I think it's more the women that leave the better tip.
Yeah,
you know, when it comes to the hospital. Yeah,
that's good to hear.
I think they're more. I think they're. You're shaking your head. Well, I have a head shaking. Hold on.
No, we have a head shake going on.
She says the men. So Nancy, right? The men.
Yeah.
I got it wrong.
Wow. See? Well, maybe it's the women giving men bigger tips and the men are giving women bigger tips.
Yeah.
You know
I don't know.
But then what if...
Well, I did not know that.
That's interesting. Well, it depends on what restaurant and bar you're in, too.
And what part of the country. Depends on the country or what part of the country.
All I know is, you know, as a musician, like I'd get tips and stuff like that. And I made good money, you know, just playing around and stuff. But then, you know, when I went, anyway, I'll shut up now before I get myself in trouble. There are certain other women that won't tip one woman if you're not that way. Just saying, it's a very interesting world on this. And I think it's interesting as we're changing now in this whole tipping culture, because, you know, waiters, waitresses, servers, you know, be politically correct, they're not making minimum wage, depending on where you are. Most of the time, they're not making minimum wage, and the tips are that. And then some restaurants turn around and say, okay, you are making, you know, more of a salary or a better wage and no tips. And I don't know where this is going to go, but the reality is, being a server, being a chef, being a busboy,
hard work,
dishwasher, I don't care what you're doing in a restaurant. And I don't care if it's a bar, a restaurant, a resort, catering, wedding. Oh God, if you're doing weddings, oh God, pay everybody. It is so much really hard work. And a tip goes such a long, long way of just even feeling like you're acknowledged. Am I right on that,
Yes.
Ivan?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there are people that live on their tips. Yes.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, tips are everything. That makes the difference where if your rent gets paid, you know, I mean, it's huge.
It is. And chefs sometimes get part of it. Depends on the restaurant. I've seen all kinds of wonky things, but okay. So you ended up in the restaurant world cooking. Didn't your grandma also teach you cooking, as I recall from interviews of the past?
Yeah.
Your grandma
Oh,
be
from
part of
the
that?
time I was a little, yeah, in Brooklyn on Flatbush Avenue, she would take me, she would buy bread at the Italian bakery. Then she'd go to the chicken market and buy fresh chickens. And then she'd go to the Italian bakery. And, you know, we were Jewish, but she loved the Italian bakery. And then we'd go to the fruit markets. And then we'd cook. And so between my grandmother and my father, you know, I loved it. My mother was not a cook. I mean, it would take her 3 days to make a lasagna, and she'd have a fit. But my dad, when he had the restaurant, used to go upstate New York and buy fresh eggs. He was kind of ahead of his time. So, yeah, I loved it. I mean, I went into psychology, but this is what I would have said. You know, somebody that came in and needed a lot of therapy, I'd say, you know what? Think about this. Make yourself a sandwich. Relax. Maybe a little potato salad. So
Ooh, a good potato salad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
do you put celery in your potato salad? Do you
No,
do celery?
no celery. No.
You sound like the soup Nazi right there. Like, no.
Yeah, no celery. Yeah.
That's funny.
No. So
although celery is wonderful.
But not in the potato. Now, do you put a mayonnaise base or like a
Mayonnaise
balsamic
base.
vinaigrette? Huh? Mayonnaise?
Mayonnaise base. And then there's the German potato salad with the vinegar and the onion. But I like a good mayonnaise base, and I like it with egg.
Yeah.
Yeah. And relish.
I used to make in South Africa.
Mustard.
You couldn't get mayonnaise all the time. So I looked up and I learned how to make mayonnaise.
It wasn't South Africa. That was Kenya.
It was
South Africa has mayonnaise. Yeah.
Same thing.
Don't trust anybody that doesn't like mayonnaise.
No, but
if you don't like mayonnaise, don't.
Making your own is really simple, and it tastes
healthier.
So much better.
Isn't mayonnaise aioli? Isn't it the same thing? Mayonnaise and aioli?
Yes, it's an aioli. It's a permanent emulsion because the egg yolk, and you put a touch of mustard in it, and they both have lecithin, and that causes it to stay together. But I'll tell you something. I've made mayonnaises and aiolis my entire life. There is nothing better than Best Foods, which is also Hellman's on the East Coast. You cannot beat their mayonnaise.
Okay. Okay. Wait. South Carolina has Duke's. And I found this out.
No, too sweet.
But that comes from Greenville, South Carolina, where we were. And they were like, we've got the Dukes, but it's too sweet for you. Okay. But it's South Carolina.
Too sweet.
So we found all these foods as we travel the country. So Duke's, and then down the road, like literally, like for us, it's down the road in Thomasville, Georgia. We were staying there and we went to this park, and there's this tiny train going through the park up on a little bridgey thing. And we say to the people we're pet sitting for, hey, like, what's up with this little train? And they're like, that's nature's own. The bread comes from there. And that's the hub of that. That's where that comes from. So we're in Georgia and we're like, what? They're like, yeah, that train is their part of their factory going from one thing to the other. And it goes through a park and you can go get the bread and you can go do tours there and stuff like that. And then you've got, I mean, it's kind of interesting seeing all these famous foods like Krispy Kreme donuts comes from North Carolina. And when we were in Raleigh, North Carolina, pet sitting for a judge, and he says, girls, and of course we like spent the evening, you know, talking to him and just like picking his brain on what's going on politically. And he wrote a book about how Madam President took over, Vice President. It's called Madam Vice President could take over.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's a whole other story. But he was really cool. And we had a good conversation. The next morning he says, I have something special. I have a meeting to go to, but I'm dropping off something that I'm taking to the meeting just for you girls. He comes back. It's two of us, a huge frigging tray of Krispy Kreme donuts. And Nancy and I are like, well, if he gave them to us, we can't not eat them. But isn't that kind of cool? When you were traveling, the world, didn't you want to try what everyone was known for?
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Even if it's bad
Everything.
for you.
Everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's one of the greatest pleasures of being alive is food.
Yeah.
It is. And you wonder, and a lot of it comes from hard times. The best food comes from the hardest times.
It also, I think it's an avenue to world peace. The more you travel, the more you know and start to understand that people are different all over the world for a reason. You're raised the way you were raised, so you have the beliefs you were raised with, and so do they. So if you go halfway around the world, you will find a whole different culture, and you're either going to go running home because you can't handle it, or you're going to embrace it, or you're going to be one of those observers that doesn't partake in what's offered, like you won't try new food, that kind of thing.
Well, I think that's what they say. Some people are born to live, other people are born to be alive. Travel is being alive.
Yeah, it's a
Food
difference between survival
alive.
and thriving, right?
Yeah.
And so when Nancy started saying about food and world peace, I was like, yeah, because when you're eating, you can't talk. It solves a problem at a holiday dinner.
Well,
but anyway,
that's true for most people.
But when you did this flight thing going around, I mean, when you were 18, did you think you would end up doing becoming a 5-star chef, teaching, working in different restaurants? I mean, you've had such an incredible career, and everyone, the link is in the episode notes, so you can see Chef Ivan's bio, and it's probably still your bio on our site probably still has to be updated with everything. But I mean, you have worked in world-class resorts, you've owned your own restaurant, you've done so much. Did you think as an 18-year-old that would happen?
No. No. At 18, I didn't even know how to pee straight. No.
Oh, well, no. I can't help you on that. Actually, I can. I'm actually pretty good at aim, but that's a whole other conversation that shouldn't be on the show now.
Although it was on my mind. I knew I was going to go in that direction, but it's been a long road. I mean, it's everything from delis and restaurants and, luncheon shops to 5-star, you build up to it, but it's all experience. It's all food. You don't have to. The perfect grilled cheese sandwich is as great as the most incredible, seared scallop dish or Maxime. It's all the same thing. It's what you put into it that makes it incredible. It doesn't have to be fancy. It just you have to put your heart into it. Yeah, and that's the hardest thing to teach.
What's a Maxime? Because I'm sorry, I can't get past that without asking what is that?
Oh, it's like they take they'll take 2 potatoes, very thin slices, and they'll put it in clarified butter, and then they'll put a basil leaf in the middle, and then they'll do a very quick fry on it, and it looks like a glass mirror, and then the green comes through like a reflection.
It's
a beautiful edible garnish. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, I want to know how to do that.
I'm going to do that.
That sounds cool.
We've got little potatoes. Well, it's interesting because I think, talking about food is like this relatable and it gets people, to use their creative muscle. And I think the more you use your creative muscle, it will help you in all kinds of levels in life, and it goes hand in hand. It just is, it's everything. Everyone needs to have that creative muscle used, because it gets you out of stuff that you get into trouble with.
Yes.
But I want to go to music, because music and food go hand in hand too. But when you were 18, is there, what were you listening to? Is there a specific song or an album, a band? Because we're making a music playlist.
Jethro Tull and a lot of Pink Floyd. Yeah, a lot of Pink Floyd, a lot of Aerosmith. The greatest band in the world, and I think it was, who was it? Somebody from the Beatles, Paul McCartney. It was meant as a compliment. He goes, the Rolling Stones. Yes, he called the Rolling Stones the most sloppy, dirty band ever, but he meant it as a compliment. And I kind of knew how he meant, because they're so raw and they're so talented that they never were anything else but who they were. I mean, they're still flying around stages in their 80s. They are wonderfully sloppy.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean.
Awesome.
In the greatest,
but they learned it
way.
from getting with the blues artists like Muddy Waters and really getting.
Oh yeah. I mean, John Lee Hooker, all of it.
It's real, without being over processed. To me, it's just like a bunch of preservatives in your food.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
And now everybody wants to go back to natural because the preservatives can make you sick, and the preservatives aren't that tasty. Sorry, guys, but there it is.
I'm so glad you brought up Jethro Tull because I always have to go. And I think it was in the movie Armageddon, and Aerosmith had a good track in there.
Yes.
And then they were in there with the one, I think it was, what's his name with the blonde hair, Owen Wilson. And he kept going, Jethro Tull is not the person's name. Jethro Tull is a band's name or something like that.
Band, I know.
It's like Ian Anderson, and he's still going, dude. There's still albums. We work with a publicist, Billy, from Glass Onion PR, and he's like every few days, like Ian Anderson again, Jethro Tull still. I mean, and I remember when I was around 18, actually, getting Thick as a Brick as one of my first albums too. I don't know what's going on this reminiscing show, but the album collection's coming out, and of course it came out before me, but the Thick as a Brick album, I listened to this. I was like, they're doing rock and roll, hardcore, and bringing a flute in and all these little, oh my God. It's like, that's like Jethro Tull is a good meal. Like when someone can make a complex meal simple, that is what Jethro Tull did.
Look at Queen. I mean, look at the music of Queen. When they first started, the guy in Britain was like, this isn't going to fly. And then someone else went, are you listening to this? This is incredible. Yeah. It was opera. It was, and also ELO. Jeff Lynne with the orchestra. I mean,
it was everything in one, like it's like a stew in a crock pot. It was all mixed together and it worked. But because it was so different, if you're really different, it takes a while.
Yeah, does that happen in food too? Because somebody will create something as a new kind of dish, right? And now we have a lot of fusion food, but back in the day, fusion food was a no-no, right? That was no-no.
Yeah. Because a lot of people didn't know how to do it, and they were putting the kitchen sink on the plate. There's a subtleness to blending and fusing, so they were kind of going overboard, you know?
I think you have to go, I think in anything we do, you have to go extreme to find the balance. That's like a seesaw. Yeah. You have to over salt to understand how to do salt. Yeah. Right. You have to, I mean, I have not over seasoned stuff for bull. Just shut up. I have to just shut up.
I'm not saying anything.
That's absolutely not true. But and now it's so fun. Like I have taken this moment of like, as we travel, people are like, hey, we got a few things in the fridge. Please use them so they don't go bad. And I go, all right, is this something that's edible for us, right? Is it okay to eat healthy? Is it dead? You know what I mean? Dead. Like we don't want it to make us sick.
Expired.
Yeah. Well, there's some, and now I look at stuff and go, well, what can we do? Why waste food? And so now there's this thing, like, if it's something Nancy and I are okay eating, like the ingredient's fine and healthy for us and it's safe to eat, what can we make with it? And so the word is interesting. And sometimes the interesting is, holy cow, who knew this would ever exist that you could do it? And I don't know, even if I called you up, Chef Ivan, and said, I'm going to do this and this, you may look at me, all right, but go try it. You know what I mean? Because you always say, just go try it. And then sometimes
that's the best part of cooking.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's the best part of cooking.
If you don't try it, you'll never know.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the best part. Yeah. That's what makes you feel alive, by the way.
Yes. Yeah. And we have limited situations too, depending when we were. We were just in a place where we were limited in how we cooked. And the whole limitation thing is another story, funny as heck and not so funny. But anyway, the microwave was it, right? We carry our own, cutting board. We carry our own frying pans.
Frying pans?
It's because of having a fish allergy and stuff. So we don't have any problems and it's clean and all that. So we're our own version of being kosher. And so I was stuck with the microwave. And so I was like, what am I going to do? I don't know how to cook in a microwave, but I learned how to make the craziest, weirdest chili and cheese thing that I didn't know I knew how to make. And I made it. And we survived.
Sure.
And we're still here talking to you. So I just feel like this is so cool chatting with you about, 18 to now. And you've been on our show for almost 18 years. And now here, I mean, we've talked with you in different restaurants over the years, including your own. And now you're teaching. Do you love the teaching part? I mean, you ran restaurants. You've done so much.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I love teaching. Even when I was
awesome
in the industry, I had a teaching kitchen. People would come to me and I'd say, you give me 200% and I'll teach you everything I can. But you've got to really, you've got to give me everything you've got. And I had that reputation and that followed me into, teaching. I prefer high school over the college level. I prefer these young students more than the juniors and the seniors because they're open to trying things. Where I had some older kids that they didn't even want to try a mushroom. But I enjoy it. I enjoy it, and it's a very important life skill. It really is, along with everything else. I mean, I teach them about life. I give them skills way past the kitchen.
That's
and hopefully
because you have time to talk in between,
it.
right? Yeah, you can talk in between as people are chopping and what's going on, and
but you have to put yourself out there, and that's really hard for a lot of people. And it takes, and every situation's different, so you have to put yourself out there in a different way.
Yeah,
and so you have to be.
You have to make it real too.
Yeah, and it's not always easy, and it gets tiring sometimes. But you reap the benefits of not having this where people are playing all their board and it's same old every day. And whose fault is that?
Well, cooking is an escape too. It's a way to people talk about meditation and having time, quiet time. Cooking is a way of having this quiet time, creative time out, play some music, pour a glass of wine or whatever, or tea or whatever, and just have a moment. It's a way to be focused, because if you're just throwing it out there, sometimes it has to happen, especially busy moms and stuff, but get the family involved if you can. It's just this kind of practice. It's an art of living, I believe.
It is. And, home cooking is very, very different than when you're in the industry of 400 covers and you're going to do 2,000 plates that night, and you have a wedding for 60 or 100 people on top of it, and every single plate has to go out to perfection. That's when you're up till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, whether you've worked the line or you've expedited, and that's a bitch. And you either love it or you don't. You have to love this, otherwise you hate it. And it's not for a lot of people.
It's an adrenaline rush too, because once you've done it, you're like, musicians and chefs will be sitting at the end of the night together, smoking and drinking, eating a meal, and saying whatever needs to be said, but they got through it. Yeah. And there's always someone squat dancing on the dance floor at a wedding.
I love that.
At the end, but that's so part of it. It's like you made it, and it's like, especially weddings are so, God, weddings are hard, because this is like this big monumental life mark, right? This is the life thing. And you've got all the family and the bridesmaids.
It's a competition between the two families.
It's intense.
There's intense competition, and from what I have seen, and I could be way wrong, but my observation has been that it's always starts with the women, with the confrontation. Wow. And well, it does, little snide remarks and tisk tisk and all
Ask
that.
Tracy; she'll take you out on this.
Well, there's this thing, the raising of the eyebrows. Oh, look who wore what. Who cares what wore, who wore what?
Do they really want, does everyone think if they do truffles, it's like I'm one-upping the other family because I put truffles on the plate? Is that a real thing? Like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to have a truffle on the plate. You know, that's going to take.
Well, they get charged for it. You know, if you shave truffles, sometimes you add $80 to the dish. So shave away, as far as I'm concerned.
Wow. And then the gold leaf and all of that stuff. It's like, we're going to do this. Yeah. Okay. And then it has to be delivered. And it's like, okay. Oh my God. The stress level. So doing your psychology part, that has had to have helped in a hot kitchen.
Yes.
That's hot, physically hot temperaments, stress. And then at the end, play that music, drink whatever, smoke whatever, and get on with it.
That's cool.
It. And then somehow you see the sunrise as you go home, you know, and then start all over again. Well, Chef Ivan, it has been so much fun having you on the shows over the years. We can't wait for the next time. Thank you.
I congratulate you both. You've built it up to something that's absolutely phenomenal. And I'm glad that Tracy and I could be a part of it for so many years.
No, we love it.
Big hugs to Tracy. She is the glue between us all. And she's a badass baker, apparently. We haven't tasted anything.
And let me tell you something about her baking. She doesn't follow the recipe. Usually baking, you don't change a thing. She changes everything. She doesn't follow the recipe. I bake, I have to follow it. She does. It's chemistry, but she changes it.
Well, cool. That's how you find out.
Very cool.
That's how you move ahead. It doesn't always work. Sometimes it's a big flop, but that's how you learn and move ahead.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how you make a difference.
She always makes it work.
And she likes cheese too. So the fact that she likes cheese is she's in the family. You know, the cheese.
We need to do a show one day. She makes this a quick bread that is very high protein, very low sugar, very high fiber, no sugar, just a little bit of artificial sweetener, and you eat this bread, you have no problems. Life
oh my God, he had to bring it home. He did.
I had to do it. Yes,
you
but
did it.
Okay.
You
just did it.
It's remarkable. That's all I'm going to say. And I felt that way at 18.
That's true. You know, because once you have that fiber, you feel much younger afterwards.
No, we have to schedule that.
It's important.
Yeah. No, it is. People need fiber.
Yes.
No, it's true. People need fiber, not the underground time. Because they need to have fiber.
Yes, because that's
guys. I have students because I talk to them about this that don't go for 3, 4, 5 days at a time.
Oh,
and I'm like, what are you eating? What are you eating? Yeah, because they're eating
processed food. What kind of diapers are they wearing?
Right. I'm like, really? Oh yeah. I mean, I go 4 days. I'm killing people. So.
No. So listen, everyone, put that fiber. This is the most important tip of Chef Ivan over the years. Is put that fiber so that you can have that skip and that step and be happy. Right. Everyone's much happier with fiber.
Right.
Wow.
So, and do it through your food. Eat some salad, put some good wholesome grains into your life. You know.
You got it.
But actually, you're really right. You know what? I think next time we've got to have you and Tracy on the podcast together.
Talk about fiber.
Yes. No. Well, let's do it. You know what? We'll do it. Let's do a fiber show. Foods.
Yeah.
She's got great recipes with that. Yeah. And protein and, you know, things don't have to be so sweet. And there's a balance. I mean, she's remarkable. She's a remarkable cook and baker. I mean, I've been a chef for a long time. She doesn't know how good she is. And that's the way it's supposed to be, you know?
Yeah.
She just doesn't know, but she's phenomenal. Because the only way you know is when someone else tastes your food. And I'm like, I'm amazed.
You know, she comes from the PR industry too, and she's creative. Yeah. You know, she knows how to put a press release together that you're like, you know, will make you go anywhere, you know?
But it'd be fun. It'd be
Yeah,
fun. I think we should schedule it.
We're going to do a fiber show.
Yeah.
Okay.
High fiber. We'll
Sounds
do fiber. Yeah, a husband and wife fiber team. This sounds good.
Yes.
Well, listen,
Yes.
Happy New Year to you both, and we will
You
talk
too,
soon.
guys.
And thank you so much. Give Tracy a hug for us, and everyone. We will be talking fiber soon. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio. Keep up with our shows at bigblendradio.com.